How do we change that dynamic? I wish I could sit here and tell you. I'm not real sure. Go ahead.
Well, okay, and Josh, I know we are going to get to maybe a solution, and that's when you'll.
I've got it. Don't worry, guys.
And
I've got it all covered.
But to your point, monopolies. 10 years ago, I was negotiating virtual print fee deals, and for different parts of the world. And I realized that while the studios couldn't all be in one room talking to one another, and the exhibitors couldn't be in one room talking to one another, they had me do it. They would basically negotiate with me. I would then, essentially, because they were all on a favored nations deal, I would then, it was backdoor collusion. Needless to say, that work dried up remarkably. I no longer do that work. You mentioned monopoly. Well, it's not just a monopoly issue, it's a supply issue.
Yeah.
So, as you can see here, okay, 2020 is an aberration, but we're getting fewer and fewer wide releases. And then
I'll say one more thing, just real quick. The additional part of our business, in about 1979 or 80, when the VCR came around, we stopped being in the movie business. We're in the advertising business. We are in the advertising business. We advertise for what comes after us, which at that time was Blockbuster and so forth. And now it's evolved into streaming. But make no mistake about it, we are in the advertising business. And the more eyeballs that see that product in our buildings, the better it does down the line. That's been the same connection since the first VCR was created. So I'm sorry to tell you, if you think we're in some other business, we're not. Yes, we have a hospitality element to it. We sell food, and now we sell arcades, and we sell other food and beverage and such, and maybe, virtual reality rooms or something else. But from the theater's perspective, we're advertisers.
But you brought up virtual print fees.
It doesn't matter who owns the theater. You need to have a respectable level of windows so that you maximize theatrical, because it will help you in your later business. Okay, it just will. It always has.
Josh, why don't you explain what it is you do, just so that people...
Well, before my brain is actually connected to this part of the conversation, so let me just say real quickly first about the theatrical window. I personally think that, there's no winning with the theatrical window in the studios. It is what it is now. We're just wasting our time, I think, in a lot of ways. Sorry, but I have an interesting perspective because I come from having a small theater, but I started out for the first 10 years just showing classics, because I created a movie experience that no one else could offer. I created the world's smallest drive-in movie theater, 15 cars a night, never made a penny, but it was very popular. And it was right here in Austin, Texas. And really, it became, babies are now 15 years old that were made at my 15-car drive-in. And they, come back. So the theatrical window was never a problem for me until the pandemic, when I was the only movie theater open in the state of Texas for a year. It was the best year of my life. And I did make money. And I should have closed right at the end of the pandemic. Didn't do it. But that's all for another time. As far as theatrical windows go, I believe that the solution is not to try and talk these guys into changing it. I believe it's in recognizing that there are movies that are meant to be in movie theaters and there are movies that are not. Half of the crap that's coming out now is not in movie theaters. It's on Netflix, and it's shit. Sorry, but it is. It's not good. It's a lot of bad stuff. But
listen to my speech.
Well, that's the thing, is that Mr. Collins, and what you were saying about how these guys have all the cards, right?
It's called
Monopoly. The Monopoly. Thank you. Okay. That we're not going to win, but from running my business for 15 years and being slightly younger in the industry, I realized that that it was sort of a lose-lose in a lot of ways. Hollywood films are very important, and I would never come up here and say, screw the Hollywood movies, because of course we need them. But to me, the problem is we need something else too. And so what I did about 3 years ago is I actually started a thing called Silent Sinks. And what it is at the end of the pandemic, a lot of my peers, little art house cinemas were closing down. And I did a thought experiment, which was, well, why are they shutting down? And the reason at that time was content, and it was because of the pandemic and because Hollywood wasn't making movies. 6 months later, it was because streaming was releasing all the movies. And so my thought was, what if we could create our own content? So I went home and I came up with Silent Sinks, where I take classic silent movies that no one's watching in movie theaters anymore, and I reached out to my favorite huge alternative rock bands and got their permission to rescore these silent movies with their most famous albums. And the first one, thanks to Spotlight, who is the big sponsor here, they had a little distribution wing, and they brought me on, and they put out my first 2 ones, and I only offered it to independent cinemas and small chains. No Regal, no AMC, because they have these guys, and they have Fathom, who goes to them first. So it's like, why don't we create content for us? Not just that, what if like 10 or 15 independent cinemas around the country had someone like me and made a movie or a new entertainment concept that they could share with the cinemas, like I did with Silent Sinks. And even more so, there's a huge, besides just what I'm doing, this is the moment. Because Iron Lung, huge example, and there's these new guys here right in Austin called Creator Camp. Has anyone heard of Creator Camp? Okay, that's a huge problem. Creator Camp just put out their first movie on their own, and it's like the #1 independent movie in the country right now. And it was created by YouTubers. And I believe so strongly that if we start a dialogue with the creators in this world that are distributing their own movies, or we start making our own content and we focus on that, it'll balance this out. And so I think that that's something that we should start talking about. How can the distributors and the creators and the cinemas get closer together and work together to create our own little monopoly that will balance out our struggle?
That's the grocery store model. That's, the grocery store buying Skippy and Jif and putting that on the shelf, but also having its own private label.
Yeah.
And
So alternative content's a great idea.
well, not alternative content.
Well,
That is the next slide, in fact. Because of the Paramount Decree, which I did my thesis on in college, and John Finney at one point thought I got paid every time I said it. Yes, it went away. Yes, it went away with a ruling that was just an awfully written ruling. The person who wrote the ruling to pull it back had no idea what they were talking about. Because you guys are the consumers for the studios. You are the consumers, not the actual end consumer. You are the customer. They did not understand that was there to protect you guys. But because of that, it was around for like 50, 60 years. Studios don't own movie theaters. Movie theaters, they don't think about owning or finding their own content. All of these theaters, those are theater chains that actually produce and make their own movies. And they do, they find financing for it, and they've gotten very good at it, and you've probably seen a lot of their movies. That's basically what you're saying?
Yeah, but I'm also saying you don't have to spend $1 million. Like my Silent Sinks, the first one was Radiohead with Nosferatu. It opened in 400 independent cinemas in the United States a year and a half or 2 ago, and it cost me $25,000 to make. Of course, that was my retirement fund, and my wife almost left me, but it totally paid off, and she's happy now, so that's good.
Can you ask 2 questions about that?
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's what we've been doing.
Yep.
We're fighting the wrong guy. We need to go to James Cameron. We need to go to Taylor Sheridan. We need to go to Tom Hanks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Try to convince them. Look what Leonardo DiCaprio came out with less than a month ago. I don't know that people want to go to movie theaters anymore. let's try to get him to come to a theater and see how many people are sitting in the auditorium to his Once Upon a Time in America, or whatever the hell the name of that movie was. and see the camaraderie in there from all these people that wanna watch these movies in a dark house and share the experience. If you can get those guys behind us, so they're gonna tell the studios what to do, because that's where they get their product.
Well,
That's just my.
one way to do that is to pay them to make your own movies with them.
Yeah, but here's the reality. I'm curious, how much did the movie gross, that first one?
Well, on the $25,000 budget, it was about 400,000, I
Okay.
think.
And
On the first one, and I did 1 month of PR, so that's pretty good, given that I only had $5,000 for PR, and that's what 1 month of PR costs.
Okay, if you come to me with a movie and you tell me, I'm only gonna spend $5,000 on marketing, how many do you want? I'm gonna say none.
Right, well, don't use my first foray into changing the world as the way it's going to be every time. My goal was to eventually have plenty of money for marketing, and I'm going to next month.
So if you had plenty of money,
That is also on
so if you had plenty of money, here's a good question, because the exhibitors out here wanna know this.
I know how important that is.
If you had plenty of money, how many locations would you open your film, and how much would you spend?
Well, as President Ford once said, I was told there'd be no math here. A couple thousand, and I'll spend as much as as they're gonna give me. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
That's what we care about.
But see, this is the thing. I'm the creator.
I know.
And here's the thing. Our movie theaters, we don't talk to creators. So creators don't know what we need. And that's actually half the point. And so whether you're going to Tom Cruise or some YouTuber that has 8 million followers and is going to open on 400 screens but sell out every show, we need to tell them what we need. And that's actually a very good point. If we don't talk to the other side, the other people that are on our level, not these guys, they won't know what we need. And that's exactly why, when I started Silence Things, I started coming to these. I started going to all of these other conferences. Creators don't go to these conferences.
Yeah, but here's for us, we're the retailer.
Right.
We depend on the wholesaler, otherwise known as the distributor.
Right.
To do the marketing, to
Yeah,
spend the money.
but
You're the creator.
Okay, I'll tell you something.
But you're also
going to
the
have to
distributor.
change that.
Yes.
Somebody's gonna spend
No,
it.
that's the thing.
You have to take your own responsibility.
I got that.
Big time.
I'm all that.
That's big time. Because here's the other thing I wanted to say that you brought up about audiences.
Yeah.
The Hollywood studios, they're not providing movies, in my opinion. They're providing a certain audience. Okay? So our job as the retailer is to create a new audience, okay? Our own audience, not this audience. And the way to do that is with different content and working with creators across the table and bringing them into the mix. Nothing's going to change if our bread and butter continues to only be the big Hollywood movies, because there's only we all know this now, there's only a certain audience for that. But there are millions of music fans. There are millions of sports fans.
Sorry, just jumping in for a second. Jumping in for a second, because we were the distributor of some of the first two Silence Things, and Josh is shortchanging it a little bit. When you're dealing with something as a fan base of Radiohead, we had a small budget to release the films. We were in over 450 locations. We did exceptionally well on Nosferatu. A lot of it was tapping into the Radiohead fan base, which is actually pretty easy because there are Reddit groups, there are fan groups, there are social media groups. You don't need a lot of money to tell a group of Radiohead diehard fans, this is coming to theaters and they're going to come out and support it. So a lot of what Josh has done is chosen bands that have a large following that's really easy to tap into. And also we had Josh doing road shows all over the country. So Josh is out there, and a lot of the true, really, really independent and art house theaters loves the idea of being able to say, particularly in smaller markets across the country, we have the filmmaker here who's going to do a Q&A, and that's really unique for a lot of theaters all across the country who may not be in major markets and get those types of things. So a lot of the independents and the art houses got behind it in that way too. So he shortchanged himself a little bit because there was a lot more that went into it, and that's why we're able to get such great gross and really great first screens on that one. And next one I know is going to be great too. So sorry, I just had to jump in.
I really
Sorry,
appreciate that.
For
Thank you.
exhibitors here in the audience, how many of you showed Iron Lung last week? So that's a lot. How many of you were showing it this? Wow. Okay. Do you expect the grosses to be the same? Now, not
It's gonna
$8 million, but do you expect it to fall off 90%? Yeah. And the reason is because that guy has 5 million followers, and that is how he markets. Not buy an ad during the playoffs. Most people only found out about it a week ago.
Yeah.
So it only started getting pressed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that, you're absolutely right, is what I'm, going to the creators, and to give you some sense as to the power of, is Gina in here? Yes, she is. So we were both at Sundance last week. I've been going to Sundance for way too long, for like 30 years. I sat down next to somebody and they have these colored badges and the color is like your importance. The red badge, the all access badge, was for the New York Times, Variety, the Hollywood Reporter. Everybody wanted the red badge. I sit next to somebody, she's 28 years old. She has a red badge. I said, well, who are you? She said, I've been getting this question all week. I said, yeah, you probably have been. She wasn't a journalist, she said, because, she's kind of a journalist. She was with a company called TikTok. And I said, well, what's your name? I look around, 759,000 followers. Her first year at Sundance has the red badge. That's what you're referring to. That's your marketing.
Yeah, and some of using bands as an example because that's my thing. Like when I created these silent things as someone who has a cinema, obviously my concern is the audience there, and I didn't pick a band that didn't have less than 8 million followers. I mean, it sounds terrible for an artiste. But it's true. I looked, I'm like, okay, 8 million, that's a good number of people that love this band, and I will create something around that.
And there's usually a 10%, like 10% of those 8 million will know about it, and then 10% of those will come.
So then you're just promoting to a whole new audience, like fans of a certain band that might never come to your cinema, but you're the one cinema in town showing it. Like you can take advantage of that.
Well, let me ask you this. So I know that
Unless we can get them to realize that you don't mind selling it to everybody that's got a telephone in their hand for them to see it there, why don't you sell it to everybody that has a movie theater that wants to play it? And more importantly, is willing to say, guys, we'll cover your costs. There's no downside whatsoever to you. Just let us have the product. The answer to that has been no forever.
Brett, why is that? Why is it that they will not send a film? I mean, because there are no prints now. Why won't they just send it to anybody? Why won't they send a film to anybody who wants it?
They do. They just won't give us the keys.
I honestly think
That's true. Look at your servers.
I think they don't do it because they don't want to deal with the Monday bad gross. And all of a sudden, you had 3,000 runs on opening weekend, and then you gave it to everybody, and now you have 1,500 runs that did $600, and everybody's, everybody wants to come off. I think that's the reason. They know the movie's not great. They give it to everybody. They're gonna have a huge off number the following Monday.
So the per cap. They're looking at per caps, and they don't
want to have 75% of their locations come off because everybody did $600 in the small towns that got it.
So
Tell me what's the math? 1,500 times 600 is what? $1 million, right? And so are you telling me their bank account's full?
I'm just saying they have, everybody looks at everybody's stuff, and they don't want the embarrassment of having a bad gross in the theater come off. And again, if you give it to everybody, it's a movie that should only be in 1,000 runs, and they give it to everybody, and if that Monday happens, and it's a $400 or $500 gross, and that theater now wants to pull the movie because they want to put something else in, then all of a sudden they have to go to the people that made the movie and say, yeah, we dropped 75% because we gave it to everybody.
Can no one do the math and say, yeah, but we made $1 million we would not have made?
Well,
Okay, it costs you nothing to make $1 million.
the studio executives are not looking at the bottom line like the stockholders are,
okay?
That is not
They're
even
looking at
smart.
their bonuses and incentives that are driven by, like you saying, those numbers, because that's the way the industry's been set up for so many years.
First string average.
I'm a stockholder in a lot of these studios. I look and read these annual reports every year and stuff. If we could get somehow the studios executives to look past their bonuses, which they never will, and the way the business model is, the problem is the business model is flawed, okay? They're not looking at the total bottom line. Like he said, they're looking at, we want 3,000 runs and say, this great movie did 92% occupancy. You know, they're not, the stockholder don't give a shit if it's 92% occupancy or 29% occupancy. They care about how much that stock's going to be worth at the end, how much money you're bringing them up.
The shareholder doesn't have to call Steven Spielberg on Monday and say,
That's right.
we're
Steven
taking
Spielberg
75.
still makes his money off of the profit. He doesn't make his money off of necessarily that percentage. And that's where it's got to change. Just like right now, if you look at admins are down, but necessarily revenue is up. Eventually, there's a diminishing return of how much you can continue to charge to watch something on a diminishing number of people willing to buy it. And we're getting real close to that right now. But the industry's got to figure that. They're just going to keep raising the rate to us to make up that difference with the attendance drop. Soon, that's not going to work. One of the reasons the windows are short, they got another revenue stream to take that movie to. 30 days, they can put it on their streaming service. They got another revenue model coming in. But I want you to think about something. Movie comes out, and it's a tentpole movie. It'll drop 35, 37% its first week. Pretty much on average, right? The next week, it drops about 40 to 45%. The third week, it drops another 50, 52%. By that fourth week, which is 30 days, we're down to only about 18 to 22% of the people are still going to come and watch the movie. Okay? That's why that window has shortened. They realize now that 18 to 22%, they can monetize that customer off their streaming service just as easy or cheaper as they can monetize it off
That's
of
a death spiral, because
It
they're
is.
basically
I agree.
habituating
I agree.
to wait. So that's...
I agree. So the customer, and also too, like they were saying the phones earlier and stuff, we got this instant gratification for customers. They want to go see the movie early after it's been out 2 or 3 weeks, and their friends say something, you know what, there's something else coming, I'll wait and watch the next thing. We got to create these experiences among ourselves and make the customer believe now is the time I need to come to the movie and watch it.
If you increase the windows, that product that they lost interest in the third week, 6 months from now, they're going to think it's a brand new damn movie when it's available on Netflix, because their attention span is like that of a gnat.
That's exactly right.
They
It
can't
is.
So
Yeah. They forgot all it, you know. We get emails from people saying, when are you going to show this movie? Man, we showed it 3 months ago. You know, I'm serious. We do get those emails. When are you going to show this? When are you going to show this?
Yeah.
It's been gone for a while.
I don't have any metrics on that at all, but what's something interesting to me that maybe y'all can relate, but I see articles all the time about box office bombs become streaming hits. Okay? Netflix has 300 million subscribers. They don't have new product every day. When that box office flop comes to Netflix, those 300 million subscribers, hell, I watched everything else, I might as well watch this.
Yep.
So there's no wonder that they're streaming successes, because they don't have any. I watch Netflix all the time. I'm a customer. I watch them constantly. I'm thumbing around and says, why the hell am I buying this damn thing? There's nothing on here.
Well, if you notice, though, they stopped all the studios. When was the last time you heard them say, well, we don't want to market the film twice. We just want to market it once. When was the last time you heard them say that? Probably years pre-pandemic. Because now marketing for their home viewing is called a home screen.
Yeah.
There is no off-brand marketing. There is no off-site marketing. It's all marketing. I'm sorry?
We're the marketing.
You're the marketing, correct. So any other questions before, because I know we're probably wrapping up here.
We're doing perfectly on timing. This is
Okay.
amazing. Because dinner, lunch is ready in 60 seconds, they told me.
Okay, well, let's see what was the next,
Chuck.
Question, and it's all but years ago, a few repair circuits did it. How many
Hold on.
individuals would actually take the money you invest in your operations and invest in somebody making movies like the young man sitting on the left side? So you create your own content.
so the question was essentially diverting some of your investment in operations and actually pooling money together to essentially If not, create your own movies, then go out and we were just at Sundance, there were plenty of movies to be had. And believe me, 2 of them got picked up, and there were 400 movies. So start doing the math on that. They probably give you the movie at this point. You could play those movies. Now, would you play them for 5 weeks? Probably not.
Can I have another thing.
My home videos are dogs. I've got 7 mastiffs, as my kids will attest. I'm sending them videos. I don't think anybody would want my stuff.
Hello? Here's my feeling on that. I don't think the cinemas don't need to support it financially, because what I believe is that if enough independent cinemas sort of agreed and got together and were like, hey, this creator wants to make this movie, this sounds great, we will show this, they'll spend the money making it. They don't need our money for that, actually. What they need is our support and the belief and the venue, basically. So that's our power. If we talk to some of these creators, the creator camp people here in Austin, these big YouTubers that are starting to make movies and are like, we as a collective have 1,000 theaters, this looks good, we will show this. That creator will go to their millions of people, raise $100,000 like the creator camp people did, make a movie and have it ready for cinemas. And it's
That's how Neon got its start, by the way. That's the reason Tim Lee is involved with Neon, because basically Tom Quinn went to him and said, we'll let you come in on an equity deal later. Will you give us the Alamo Drafthouse as basically an output deal? You show the films in a movie theater, I can go raise money on that. They did, and now look at where Neon is.
And that's what happened with Spotlight. Spotlight, they were basically like, we will distribute this for you if you give us the product. And I said, okay, let me go to the bank. And then we have it, so yeah. And just while I have the mic for 1 sec, since I am a creator as well as a cinema owner, my next Silent Sync is available to book immediately. And it comes out in 2 weeks. And the band is Pearl Jam.
But by the way, that is $5,000 in marketing.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, that's right.
A question to anyone on the panel. Do you think you created your own problem with a PLF?
Yes.
That's where everybody wants to
What
go.
you've done, you took a multi-screen theater and you put in a single-screen theater inside of it. And now, you get your PLF booked, and week 2, you want to move it to another auditorium. And the studio said, no, you got to hold it right there. In fact, you got to hold it maybe for the length of the run. And so, what caused us all to get away from single-screen theaters, we've gone right back to putting one in our theater. Or maybe you put 2. But you still have 2 single-screen theaters inside of a multiplex. So, that's what I think.
How many of you know about Attend, the 15 groups? And how many of you would use it or are using it? So, and has it been successful for anybody? I mean, that's not the challenge. I don't know anything about it. Has it been crickets? Okay.
Well, by the way, the 15 group is the one who put out the Creator Camp's first $100,000 film, which just came out last month.
Two sleepy
people. Yeah.
Two sleeping people by American Barons.
And so those guys have been around for a while, so you don't have to listen to me, right?
And did it do well?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that at how they went with their release. I would have done it differently. They did a very closed window release for 1 week. They were keeping it really tight. I don't think that's good for us to do that. And they also did not focus on independent and small.
They went to AMC.
They went to AMC. But again, here's the thing. I think my opinion is the reason they did that is they don't know us. You know what I mean? They don't know what we need. They don't know that we are there to support and that we would benefit the most from what they're creating. So that's why I'm on this big pulpit about talking to these people.
Hey, last question, because she was super polite.
Oh boy. So
No pressure.
no pressure at all. Okay, Morris, I just want to go back to something. I felt like you framed the challenge really beautifully at the beginning of the conversation, which is studio and operators have no trust. The focus needs to be how do we fix that, because the dynamic needs fixing. And I want to bridge that thought with something that Mark Collins framed earlier, which was the diamond industry really excelled when they realized they stopped selling stones and started selling meanings. So my question is, Morris, to go back to what you framed, is what is the meaning that needs to be sold in order for studios and operators to fix that trust?
Who are you with?
Crunchy Bread Culture Studio. I'm not a studio.
That's a mouthful.
There's a rumor there's a studio guy going around here, that's why I asked that question. I honestly don't know the answer. But the first thing is, on our side of the equation, we need to look in the mirror and figure out what it is we've done historically, what we're doing currently, that causes distrust from the studio. I think if we take that step, then eventually, I mean, human nature would tell you that when you start seeing somebody behaving, you want to be part of them. You want to be around good people. So that would be my answer to that question, is we got to look in the mirror first and say, look, I'm not going to play games if they tell me I have to do this, if I don't use my agreements or whatever in order to say, look, I'm only going to play this on shows the second or third week. And they're going to say, no, you're not, you're going to hold it full, then I'm going to hold it full. And if everybody does that, then eventually you would think there might get some trust involved on their side. But then you also got to get somebody to sell them to look in the mirror and be trustworthy as well. That's going to be the harder issue, I would think.
And that's my hostage situation. They're
Yeah.
holding you hostage.
They are holding us hostage. I don't disagree with that at all.
When you can sell your own peanut butter. That's kind of what came out of this is.
And maybe we give them a percentage of concessions.
That's a joke, guys, that's a joke!
You know what, before we go, I did a really bad job of introducing Shane Nichols, who joined us as we try and turn CJ into something that will actually pay for itself. Shane is kind of handling that while I head off to do editorials. So if you see Shane out there, please do say hello. She's just joining us and joining the industry. So please do. And I know that
Berlin, you did an amazing job. You guys were very fun to listen to.